Welcome back to the Whatnots Reactor Core number 128. We have the final two episodes of Secret Invaion to talk about. My name is Kyle Springer. I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa,
True.
have you been secretly invaded?
Ask me a question only Melissa would know.
Shit. Melissa, what color does red and blue make? What? Inside joke.
A trusted friend told me it's purple.
Yes.
Said that's one of the top factors of purple. Number one reason why purple is good. It's red and blue mixed together. That makes it the
number
best
one
color.
Purple fact. We are having fun. We got the finale of Secret Invaion to talk about. Melissa, I know you weren't as like enthralled by this show. You liked it, right? But like I know you weren't as enthralled as I was here.
Which I place
at least with the show in general.
I place it on my own shoulders. It's just a busy month. There's just a lot going on. There's a multitude of other movies and TV shows I am engaging with. Work's busy. My one time slot to watch these big Marvel shows is like in the morning while I'm eating breakfast, and then I can try and keep up with like the reactions and the breakdowns and stuff as the day goes on, and then we have recording. So I'm watching this thing just as I've woken up, and like even very silly things will like perk me right up. Like there's very silly imagery here in this season finale. I'm like, this is great. I like to start my morning with a big cartoon arm. I'm enjoying this.
Well, with all of that, how did you feel about the finale? What did you think about the show overall?
I don't think it has a unique problem. Most of these Marvel shows on Disney Plus have had a finale that feels like there's like 15 minutes of it missing. Everything except for Loki, the one show that aired season 1 knowing it was going to have a season 2. So I'm not surprised by its shortcomings, but I've adjusted the shortcomings. I know to expect that. I'm going to watch the finale and feel like, where are we going? Where'd that person come from? What's this? What's happening?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think the show was very successful on performances and mood and atmosphere. If you wanted some paranoia vibes, it sure is here.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. I think overall the show was successful. I think it did what it needed to do. I think when you take all things into consideration, I think it did the bare minimum of what it needed to do. I think part of that is still, I don't think they've figured out this like 6-episode format of exactly what to put in there, what not to, like what kind of story you can actually tell. I felt like, this needed at least 2 more episodes to flesh some stuff out. But I liked what we got. And the stuff that was successful, like you said, I think the performances in this is fantastic. It's Elizabeth Coleman or Olivia Coleman.
Olivia Coleman.
Yeah, Olivia. Fantastic in this. I know
I think my favorite part.
Spectacular, right? Like I expected her to be spectacular, but also kind of wasn't expecting like an actress of her caliber to be in the show. And not only is she in the show, but she showed up. Like she's not phoning it in and just being like, I know I'm a really good actor. I can do my one scene and that's it. She is here. She is performing. She is electric. She's great to watch. Like there's just a lot of the atmosphere that they had with the paranoia, with the kind of last second turn on Gravik that a few of these scrolls had. It was like, yeah, you're making some interesting moves here, dude. Why are you making these moves here? Why did you send what's her name to go kill Fury, knowing that she wouldn't? What's up with that? I think there's just a few loose ends that was like, how come we never went back to these things? I think the death of Maria Hill is an interesting one. I don't think the character was done dirty by having a death in the show, considering she's had a big role in the MCU, right? But as compared to like Soren, who died off screen,
right,
and we didn't go back to that. It seemed like that was like a central mystery.
That's true.
And it was just like,
I forgot all about that. Yeah, in the first couple episodes, that does seem like something we're going to learn more about. That's going to be flashed back to or recontextualized, or the death was fake. Right. We never did go back to Soren.
Didn't go back to that at all. And so, yeah, it really felt like that character was fridged. And just to be like, okay, well, this is like the start of the show. This character died off screen. And that is the emotional through line for Talos and Gaia, two of the main characters of the show. And it's just like, I barely know who Soren is. We saw her like in a post-credit scene once, and that was kind of it. And so I'm just like, I felt like I needed more on that. But then also, to go back to Maria Hill, the fact that they actually did end up releasing that footage of Fury killing her, even though it wasn't him, but that's now out there to the public. What does Hill's mom think?
Right. Yes.
She was.
I think that's
so upset and was already angry at Fury that she died on one of his missions, and now to see that he was the one, even though he's not, but like to see that, what would she do?
Right.
I wouldn't know.
I think that is one of the best scenes of the show. We've so rarely gotten this perspective of a civilian loved one reacting to the secretive death of a superhero adjacent main character. We've had scenes like the one in Civil War where the mother of that student who was in Sokovia comes and talks to Tony Stark. But that's like, my son was a civilian. He was innocent. He was in the wrong place. He didn't know it was the wrong place. What were you guys doing there? Yeah. This is a lot different. You know, like when Tony Stark dies, Pepper Potts was there. She knows everything that was happening. There's no secrets kept from a Pepper Potts. Yelena Belova knows the circumstances of Natasha's death, I bet. But yeah, Maria Hill, especially given her role in S.H.I.E.L.D., in the more like secretive, not as like public facing, like literal capital S superhero side of things. Yeah, when she dies, there's a lot her mom doesn't know. And I liked when her mom confronts Nick Fury, like,
absolutely.
What I do know is that she really trusted you. She'd follow you anywhere. What happened here? Like, how do I get justice for this? And I think it's a very well played scene. You can see, you know, on Samuel Jackson's face, like that is something that weighs on him. I think in that regard, they didn't take that long-standing partnership lightly. But you're right. That seems like a storyline that should have had like one more beat to it.
We needed some closure on that. And yeah, we just did not get that. But yeah, we do kind of get a small mutiny in some of these scrolls here who are starting to question Gravik. How did you feel about this? Because I liked the inclusion of this, but this was also one of the things I felt like I just wish there was more to it than that one scene.
Right. Yeah, we don't spend a lot of time with the mutiny angle. We don't spend a lot of time with this little new Skrullos community at all. We see that they're like trying to regrow Skrull plants, but I wanted more of what other things are you trying to recreate from the planet you came from? How are you turning this abandoned nuclear facility into a home? Because it really still looks like an abandoned nuclear facility. Like, what are you doing to try and make it feel homey? What is Skrull interior design?
Right, yeah, and like I know all of them being where they're at makes them like, yeah, we believe in what Gravik is doing, but then besides that one scene, we don't get anyone being like, I agree we need to do something, but this might not be the right target, or like, why are you focusing on this aspect of things when we could also be like, there's it felt again just like we needed more. What were they thinking? How were they feeling? Because man, when Gravik finally starts ripping them apart and stuff and killing them all, like it's a scary scene to see him like that. Like that felt like his villainous moment, that he is like he's less a freedom fighter, maybe more of like he feels like he should also be the one in charge and ruling the new planet when they get there. So like a military dictator kind of thing, a fascist maybe, who knows. It just like, I think they could have explored that, or at least had one other scene or one other conversation about that, right? But yeah, it just continually felt like I liked everything we got. It just felt like there wasn't enough of this stuff. Yeah, I don't know. But I think once we then finally get into the finale, or when was it, episode 5 or 6, when Fury sends Gaia to Priscilla?
Those two have their meeting in episode 5.
Okay. I loved all of that stuff. That Fury still kind of knew that, like, even though he might not be on good terms with either of them, that these two still had good intentions at heart, and that they could help one another out, and that might turn them over to Fury's side just a little bit more. But yeah, I looked to that whole fight scene in the house, and they are kicking ass. Great stuff. Mwah. Awesome.
Nice house. One thing that I've mentioned this before, but I always feel the need to mention it. One thing that these Disney Plus shows do consistently very well is they just pick nice sets.
Sure.
Every incidental house or clandestine meeting spot any characters have to be in any episode of these Marvel shows, they find cool looking places.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked all of that stuff, but let's talk a little bit about like what the Skrulls were after exactly, and this big kind of fight scene finale thing that's happening at the end here.
And it is kind of, and
go ahead.
Saying Skrulls plural is kind of the question. Like, that was Gravik's plan, but maybe I missed something, but I feel like I left the show not being entirely clear on how many people knew what his plan was, how many people were on board with that plan. And at the end of the day, if I did know all of those things, what would that do for me? When would it come back?
The thing, like, so the thing that I am stuck on is not the right word, or tripping on is not the right word, but the thing that I keep thinking about is this kind of reveal at the end of episode 5 and into episode 6 that they're after Captain Marvel's blood. Like, that's the thing that they want. And it feels like it seems like a strange MacGuffin to me, because they didn't introduce that concept early on. We got that tease in episode 2 where it's like, oh, they're harvesting DNA. What happened here? And it makes sense that they could have gotten it from the fight in Endgame. all of this stuff makes sense and lines up for me, but why did they need that one? I have my speculation, but also like they had almost everything else in the book. Like why that one? There's no real explanation for that. Why couldn't they be happy with Korg's DNA and Groot's DNA and all the 50 other things that they had there?
So many.
Yeah. Did you think about that at all, or question like what is happening? What are they after exactly?
I knew the concept of a super scroll, so I could imagine they were going to do that to try and go after other people's powers in some way. In this case, since none of those characters are in this show, they can't just like rogue them and like take their powers. They have to get it from like a weird DNA vial. Which, that being said, now that we've seen this one form of using somebody else's powers, it does make me curious how we are going to see Rogue in the future, and however many years it takes to get to Rogue, what that's going to look like.
Yeah, because on one hand, I was even wondering if like this almost feels like their plot for the secret invasion just got exposed. They weren't out to make a super scroll that had everyone's DNA, but were planning on taking the heroes over. But they don't talk about that. And so it feels like, okay, what is the end all with Carol's DNA? Like, why do you need that one and everything is complete?
I guess just she's the most powerful. They know that she was the origin story. Like, she was part of what brought Skrulls to Earth. Maybe it just has a sort of symbolic purpose to them. Like, this lady didn't, this figure wasn't helping us in the way we wanted to be helped. We're going to take her powers. We're going to copy them. We're going to use that to be our own help.
Yeah. My thoughts were kind of like, yeah, she is one of, if not the most powerful. So her DNA is almost kind of like having a nuke, right? And they have been at war with the Kree for a long, long time. At the end, we get Fury's sentence of like, hey, they're up for peace talks now, which seem to be welcome news. But also here we have Gravik and his sect of more militant Skrulls. Were they planning on taking over the Kree home world with this and giving them a little bit of their own medicine here with these powers? It felt like I never really knew what the end game was. It seemed like you wanted to destroy all the humans, but then what? Were you gonna terraform Earth? Were you gonna go somewhere else? Were you gonna? I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of a broken record at this point. Just being like, I wish we got more. 6 seems too short. But it felt like, at least emotionally, we did get some closure for Gaia, who gets to fight. Who gets to fight Gravik at the end and beat him. Like, that is the emotional catharsis for her to be like, you killed my mom, you killed my dad, like, screw you. Yeah, right. So I think that worked. I think Fury getting to save the president and kind of prove his worth to him and the other intelligence community, like, put him back in good standings. I think, right? I have to say, I did also love the scene when he puts on his big old trench coat, puts his eye patch back on. I was just like, yeah, Nick motherfucking Fury, here we go.
Seeing somebody put on an outfit and accessories is almost always satisfying. You're never underwhelmed when somebody known to wear a hat puts on the hat. or the coat.
It has to be the iconic stuff, right? It has to be like, oh, he's in a trench coat and eye patch. Here we go, baby.
I guess if he just put on a big parka for the Russian winter, that's not quite as effective.
It'd be like, oh yeah, Nick's smart. Gotta stay warm.
Practical.
Right, instead of Nick motherfucking Fury. Let's go.
Eddie Bauer, nice choice.
Right, yeah.
I did like that Fury and Priscilla / Vara, as she would prefer to be called, that is a more complete story. That is a pretty strong through line. And I did really, really appreciate that the show opened with that eerie shot of Fury coming down the gangplank from the spaceship, sort of with all the light from behind him where his form is kind of distorted. And then you get the reverse of that shot with him and Vara together going back up on the spaceship. That was very nice.
That was good indeed. Nice bookends to the show. Yeah, I thought that had a lot of like that had a lot of screen time, right? The amount of care that they gave that storyline is what I wanted from a few other things there. I thought the CGI and stuff was decent. It was, I wasn't taken aback at like, ooh, this doesn't look good. It looked stylized in a way that I enjoyed, if that makes sense. Like, it didn't look real or anything. There was something they were doing with like the focus of it being on them, and the backgrounds were just blurry enough that it, I don't know. I am interested because this also feels like there could be a season 2 or not even that, but like somehow some of these plot lines picked up in something else, whether it's Armor
I think
Wars,
so. Yeah,
or who knows what. Because now we have Gaia, who has all these powers, working with MI6. So I don't know what that means exactly. Is there gonna be some kind of Skrull kill crew? They've had comics like that in the past. We almost got this like Watchmen-esque like montage at the end here of like, here's the ramifications that it had on like the general populace once it came out that like aliens were on Earth and they invaded, which funny enough, there was some government hearings this week that basically said all of that stuff. So I don't know.
We have scrolls.
Yeah, who knows?
I know this is not what I'm supposed to be thinking about. I know this is not where this plot line is leading. But when President Ritson, first off, big surprise, that man's still alive.
Yes, that was what I was about to talk about next.
By the end of this.
What happened?
Maybe he dies, and that's like the cold open of Captain America: Brave New World. Like maybe Thunderbolt Ross like suddenly is president in that movie. Maybe that's new in that movie. I don't know. It's still strange to know already that he's going to be not just Thunderbolt Ross, but President Thunderbolt Ross. I'm still not sure what we're supposed to do with the information that he's president this far in advance. But when he declares like all non-Earth entities, you're my enemy now. It's Ritson v. you. I watched breakdowns that were like, what does this mean for all the citizens of New Asgard that are this full colony here in Norway that is like a tourist spot? Like people seem to be very agreeable with the presence of New Asgard. There's like trade agreements you can see in like little tickers and in the background of Wakanda Forever.
Ritson was the one that signed off on those. Yeah.
But the first thing I thought of is, what does this mean for Peter Quill? I don't know time-wise how this lines up, if he's back living with his grandpa in St. Charles, Missouri.
I mean, he's technically fine because he's a human. He's an Earth boy.
He is born on Earth. his mother's from Earth. Right. And I'm like, what is that celestial half? How many people know about that? Did he come back and tell his grandpa?
Does he still have
guess who my dad
American
is?
citizenship, right? How does that work?
I'd love the secret invasion that's just that immediate little neighborhood in St. Charles, Missouri, looking at Peter Quill as a possible threat.
Right.
He just sits there eating cereal.
Come on, man. Yeah, I like there's some interesting ramifications. I do think that the president's stance at the end there, his little speech, seemed very harsh and seemed very whoa, dude, we just like I know there was an invasion happening, all that stuff, but like you didn't seem like the type to do all of that. So
right, we know so little about Ritson in terms of like his temperament, his views, his situation. Like, is he a married man? Does he have kids? What is his life experience like?
I'm even thinking, what if there's some Skrulls who are still in deep cover and don't want to, like, is the president a Skrull and like only one or two people knew that, and maybe the ones that did know are now dead? Who knows? There could be something like that, and I don't know. Like, it seemed, very militant, very aggressive. I'm wondering if that, I mean, because we did get to see in that montage that it kind of emboldened a number of people to kind of go after vigilante justice and stuff like that. I'm wondering if there's an assassination attempt on him or something that could start off why Thunderbolt Ross needs to become president. But yeah, like I almost kind of like what I speculated better than what we got. Not that I'm a writer, I'm a terrible writer, but I like the idea that if this invasion happened under his nose, it would have felt right for him to step down and resign and then have someone else step up, right? And that feels like, let's have Thunderbolt Ross. He is a general. Like, he would know a little bit more military strategy. He would be the one that would be like, death to all aliens, right?
I see we are at war now. I am not a wartime president. I know somebody else who's great for the job.
Exactly.
I'm stepping down to spend time with the kids I might have.
Yeah.
Little Ritsons.
Hopefully they're my kids and they're not Skrulls.
Who is the youngest Skrull? How do Skrulls breed? There are a million Skrulls on Earth, but was that a million Skrulls who came to Earth?
I'm sure.
Are
Nick
new
knows.
Skrulls being born on Earth that have different views about what Earth means to them than it did to their parents? Like, there is very much that could be discussed. Yeah. There was a lot of potential here. I did like a lot of what we got. Like we said, I like the Fury and Vara relationship. I really do like Sonya Fallsworth. She's fascinating to me.
Absolutely.
There is this motif throughout the show of the Skrulls in green. And every time we see Sonya, she's in like bright red. And I was like, what does that mean exactly? Is this like a call to like a corollary character from the comics? She's in like a vaguely approximately Captain Britain role, but like there's multiple colors on that flag. She's just in one. She's just all red. Does that mean something about her in opposition to the Skrulls? Was this like a visual cue? Like when you see green, that means Skrulls. When you see her in red, that's us subtly trying to tell you, don't worry that this lady's secretly a Skrull. She's never going to be. That's not a card we're playing. So she's never going to be remotely in anything green. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it just a style choice, like Val's love of purple? It
feels like something is now being started in Europe. There is some, I mean, like there's the Avengers have done the whole globe trotting thing, right? But there are teams in Europe. I don't know much about them. They aren't super popular in American comics. Every once in a while, they kind of pop up. Right? We have Alpha Flight in Canada. I don't know. Like it feels like a lot of the fallout we didn't get to address, or we didn't get some of these like cathartic moments that we probably should have to just get closure on some things here. So it still feels like there's more out there. I want to believe. Right.
Something that puzzled me that I don't know if I was supposed to be puzzled by is when Gaia lets all of the people, like the actual humans, loose from that base, including all those political figures and Everett Ross and Rhodey. A lot of them are wearing just like the clothes we've seen the Skrulls in, which I guess sets up like how the Skrulls, who may not be familiar with human customs and fashion, know how to dress. Like, okay, I see this woman in the suit. I'll wear suits like that when I morph into her. What stood out to me is that almost everybody is in like public professional clothes. It seemed like everybody was nabbed from just like out on the street, like out in their everyday lives. Like nobody was in pajamas or anything like that. I'm like, was that supposed to tell me something?
Rhodey,
was I supposed to think about
boxers?
This?
Okay, buddy, here we go.
They have like a cartoon character on them, like Tweety Bird or something.
Right? Yeah. God.
So I don't know if I was supposed to think about that, but I thought that was an interesting choice. And then we do get Rhodey, and what really does seem to be like a hospital gown, and people are drawing this to Civil War. Yeah, which seems like the clear connection point. But I do also wonder, they don't say anything. I feel like that this was something people were speculating about going into the show. People who were possibly Skrulls. Rhodey was high on the list of Skrull suspicions. And there aren't any big drops of this person was a Skrull for this long.
I was like, expecting like one more thing to like walk out that door, and it's just like Sam Wilson. Like, what the hell is happening? Right.
Right. Like there's I think everybody was expecting a bunch of twists like that. And instead we get like Skrull was Everett Ross once, but seemingly just recently. And we are extrapolating that Rhodey was taken over in Civil War, which is quite a big change. I feel like if there was such a big change, there would be a line about it. The fact that there's no dialogue about it at all is sort of mystifying to me. And I wonder if there was like something like maybe he's continuing to experience issues related from that crash in Civil War, and he had to go in for another surgery like 2 months ago, and that's when they grabbed him. And like that was just cut with some other bit of connective tissue that was lost in this last episode. Like we really don't know. And it's not, I don't know if we get anything out of it being ambiguous exactly how long Rhodey has been a Skrull.
I'm just gonna assume like shortly after Civil War.
But even in that situation, you would imagine that it's somebody doing a whole villain reveal, and it's that person who has been in this character's shoes telling you, yes, I was here for this long, and this is what I saw, and this is what I experienced, and when you thought it was him, it was me. And we don't get any perspective of anybody who was replacing anybody we are familiar with. What did I think Rava is the name of the Skrull who was
you can continue.
No, I'm just saying, like, we don't hear from Rava, who I believe was the name of the Skrull who was Rhodey. Who was that Skrull who was Everett Ross? I don't know. Like, we don't learn a lot of these people's experiences, presumably being in the company of other characters we know. Yeah. And I would have liked to have seen that. Like, what is this outsider perspective? Like, let's say maybe, if you have been Rhodey for the last 8 years, however long it's been since Civil War, like, what was your experience like suddenly having to be Tony Stark's best friend? How did you adjust all these things? what were you plotting? Was there, some small terrible thing that happened to somebody that you had your hands in? Like, there's no villain monologue at any point that I feel like we would have gotten with what's on the table here in this series.
I think the silver lining, at least with Rhodey, is that we do have Armor Wars coming up, which focuses on him.
I've always liked Rhodey. Always happy to spend more time with Rhodey.
Yeah, so I mean, like, there could be a line or two in there about that. I don't remember if it's back to being a movie now or if it's a show now. I don't remember. But who knows? That's just like...
It'll be a series of trading cards.
We know that the MCU is continuing in other shows and movies. So, and also we have the Marvels coming up. Which seems, I don't want to say is a direct sequel to this, but in terms of Nick going back up to Saber, feels like a continuation of that. So we'll see. Maybe, especially since he did say the Kree were open to peace talks, we might get to see a little bit more of what that means and their relationship with the Skrulls there. So who knows?
Yeah, I think there is promising stuff we can take out of the series for sure. I've not been disappointed by any of these Marvel Disney Plus shows. Sometimes I'm just tired. And that's the only reason why they don't click with me. Literally, I was busy. In the words of Drax, I was thinking about something else. Speaking of which, it's so silly. It's so silly. But I loved the image of Gaia with the big Drax arm.
Yeah.
I love it for the reasons I love the dance scene in Spider-Man 3. Does this belong here? No. Am I happy I get to see it at all, regardless of the context? Yes.
That was the weird thing to me about the CGI. This is the last thing I'll say on the show. The weird thing to me about the CGI, it looked okay, but the weird thing was like the scale of what they turned into. Like, it feels like it should have still been their bodies and their proportions, but with the powers of that person, and like their skin looked like it, but instead, no, it like changed the proportions of their body to almost be that character instead. Yes. And so like the times when you see Garavik change into Thanos's one dude who had the telekinesis
Ebony Maw
moves, he just like had this like smaller, like malnourished half of him and this little skitty arm with this big, like beefed up, like Rocky arm next to it. Just like, what is happening here? Like, why wouldn't they just make it proportional? I don't know. It just was like, this is funny.
Right. It is funny. I enjoyed it.
Silly.
I loved that Mantis was like the second to last power that was pulled out in that fight. I love the respect put on just how much Mantis can do.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I thought it was good. I liked the show overall. Feels like there was a lot missing, but much more of a success than I think some of the stuff we've gotten recently, with the exception of She-Hulk, which I also thought was great. So
I think all of these shows have got real highlights and real value to them. Like, I haven't had a bad time with any of them. Like, there's some that I enjoy in the moment, and then like a year later, I'm like, right, Hawkeye.
That did happen.
That was more than just, we get to see Vincent D'Onofrio again, and here's a Broadway musical. Like, Hawkeye himself did some things.
Echo is still supposedly happening later this year. Maybe it might get delayed.
I'll watch it.
Who knows?
I am here for all of them. I enjoy them all. Although I want to say it might have been Eric Voss who had like a good point that some of the most successful things to have come out of the Marvel Disney Plus situation is Werewolf by Night. Like they do well from the two examples we have so far of Werewolf by Night and the Guardians Holiday Special. Like the one shots did very well. And it, like I said, Loki, I think was really successful because it knew it had a second season. I think you might be right about the 6 episodes is a weird length. Like make it an hour or make it much longer. like I feel like you need to get in and get out or like have a lot of time to play with a lot of different elements that you might have up on your storyboards there.
Yeah. I mean, it's you can even look at what they're doing over in the Star Wars stuff. The like Obi-Wan show, very mid, kind of not great. Just like all that stuff. But when they took the time and they filmed on location and they got like a really good writer and some good Andor, spectacular. Like honestly, some of the best Star Wars we've gotten, period. And then they also go back to stuff like Book of Boba Fett, which was not good at all. And the best stuff in that is when it turned into The Mandalorian for 2 episodes and was like, if we go back over here in this corner, and it was like, okay, that's better. So yeah, they just still don't feel like they found the right spot or that they want to completely invest in all of these shows. Like I'd almost rather them do less shows and invest more in the ones that they're doing rather than like shotgun. Here's all of them, but they're only like 6 episodes and they're okay-ish.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I have appreciated all the time I've spent with these shows. I think it's important to try these new things, to experiment. They've done different lengths, like the one shot, 6 episodes, 9. Daredevil coming out is sometime in the future is like 18 or 16. Yeah. It's longer. So I like the experimentation. You know, you have to do that to know like exactly what lane you want to stick in going forward. So hopefully they find it. Yeah, hopefully the next batch of newly announced shows that we get they've been more consistent.
Hopefully. Well, I think that about wraps us up for our reactions to the finale of Secret Invasion. Even though this show is done, we have plenty more to check out on the Reactor Core feed. We recently covered Mission Impossible. We did Barbie and Oppenheimer. We're about to do the Venture Bros movie this weekend. I'm sure we'll do something for Ahsoka down the road. Be on the lookout for all of that good stuff because we got more coming your way. But Melissa, where can people find you on the internet?
I am on. My name is there. Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit, WILKYWIT. Not updated, but I assure you it is me and not a scroll. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities.
Good stuff. If you guys want to follow me, I'm at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter or on X. And on Threads, if you want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at The Whatnots, we are at The Whatnots on Twitter and The Whatnots Official on Threads. Go like, share, subscribe. We got plenty more videos right over that way. This has been number 128 of The Reactor Core. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.